At my brother's wedding, I was given a paper badge that read, "Limited Access Guest." My mom leaned in and whispered, "That means no plate." I glanced over at the gift table, picked up my envelope containing a $7,500 check, and said, "I don't think you'll need this anymore." Then I walked away. My brother started to follow, and my parents yelled, "Come back!" But I didn't. There is no other word for it. It was simply offensive. My envelope had been sitting there on the gift table. Plain white one, a little creased at the corner from when I'd placed it down earlier. Inside was a $7,500 check that I had worked incredibly hard for. It had taken me months of saving, extra hours at work, skipping vacations, saying no to things I wanted, all so I could do something truly meaningful for my brother. And, to their unfortunate surprise, I was about to take it back. I had no idea anything was wrong until I got to the reception venue. The church ceremony was fine, a quick, beautiful blur of a service. My brother had barely spoken to me that morning, but I blamed it on nerves. I didn't expect special treatment. I'm not that kind of person. But I did assume I was part of the family. When I reached the check-in table for the reception, was behind a couple who received beautiful gold-trimmed badges with their names and table numbers printed in elegant calligraphy. Then it was my turn. The woman at the table didn't even look up as she handed me a flimsy paper badge. I stared at it. In thick black letters, it read, "Limited Access Guest." I paused, thinking it had to be a mistake. That's when my mom appeared, as if she'd been waiting for this moment. She leaned in and whispered, as if we were sharing a private joke, "That means no plate." I waited for a smile, a wink, something to signal it was a joke. But she just walked away before I could even ask a question. I stood there, holding the badge, and a sudden quiet fell over my mind, as if I were underwater. I walked into the hall. Anyway, telling myself there had to be a mix-up. But as soon as I saw the tables, the seating chart, and the servers placing plates, I understood. My name wasn't on the list anywhere. I checked the family tables, nothing. No chair, no plate. Not even a name card. I wasn't a guest. It was a loose end they didn't care to tie up. I stood near a wall watching everyone get settled. My brother gave a toast, my parents clapped, and his new wife kissed his cheek as people took photos. I waited for someone to notice me, for someone to walk over and say it was a misunderstanding. No one did. They saw me. They just didn't care. So I made my way out of the main hall and back to the gift table. It had been busy earlier, but now it was quiet, with just a few envelopes and gift bags scattered around. I spotted mine immediately. It was the only one that wasn't sealed with a sticker or ribbon, just folded closed. I picked it up, opened it, and took out the check. Holding it for a moment, I said, not loudly, but clearly enough for anyone nearby to hear, "I don't think you'll need this anymore." I then turned and walked toward the exit. I didn't get 10 steps before I heard chairs scraping. Someone calling my name, then my brother's voice, louder and angrier. My parents were shouting too, "Come back, come back." But I didn't. Calmly walked to my car, started the engine, and drove off without a second thought. They could toast and dance all they wanted, but the honeymoon they were so desperate for just became a little less golden. They didn't want me there, and that was fine. But they wouldn't get to use me either. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was angry, though I was, because everything kept replaying in my head. I couldn't stop thinking about that envelope on the gift table, how proud I was to leave it there. I thought I was doing something good and meaningful, that I was part of something important. Instead, I was just the girl with the paper badge, the one who didn't get a seat, the one whose own family decided she didn't quite belong. This wasn't an oversight. It was a deliberate choice. By morning, the texts began. My mom, my dad, then my brother. "Okay, we talk. Please don't make this a thing. Let's not ruin the weekend." No one apologized. No one admitted they were wrong. It was all deflection, as if my reaction were the problem, not their actions. My mom actually wrote, "We assumed you'd be okay." Withstanding since you always say you don't care about fancy stuff. As if I was supposed to be grateful for the honor of being excluded, around noon my dad called. I ignored it. He called again, then texted, "Come over. We want to talk. Your brother's here too." I didn't answer right away. I took a shower, made breakfast, and cleaned the kitchen. I didn't owe them urgency, and I certainly didn't owe them the benefit of the doubt. But a part of me still wanted to go, not to fix things, but to watch them squirm. I knew they needed that check. I knew how close they were to financial ruin. I had heard my brother complain about the wedding costs and how stretched they were. So I went, not out of forgiveness, but out of curiosity. When I arrived, my brother's car was already in the driveway, along with my dad's. I walked in without knocking. All three of them were in the living room. My mom tried to look casual, smiling as if I were just back from a long trip. My dad gave a stiff nod, like this would be a reasonable conversation. My brother stood up, half raising a hand, unsure whether to hug me or shake my hand. I sat down and didn't say a word. I waited. My dad spoke first, saying it was really unfortunate how things went yesterday. He didn't take responsibility for making it unfortunate, just that it happened to be. My mom followed with some lines about miscommunication and logistics. She used the word oversight a few times, as if my absence from the table had been a simple spreadsheet error. My brother didn't say much. When he did, it was vague. "I didn't know that's how it would be," he said. "Thought you'd understand." As if I was supposed to be an enlightened monk who would float above the humiliation. I listened, nodding occasionally, and when they were finished, I looked at them and said one thing: I might change my mind. That was it. No promises, just that single word. The shift in the room was immediate. My mom sat up straighter, her eyes wide with hope. My dad let out a sharp little exhale of relief. Even my brother looked directly at me for the first time. Their hope was thick in the air. My mom started talking fast about how generous that would be, how the money would go straight to the honeymoon, and how she didn't want this little thing to hang over us. My dad chimed in about how families have rough moments but always get through them. My brother didn't even say thank you. I just smiled, stood up, and said I needed time to think. I walked out, leaving them with that word "might" buzzing in their ears like a secret promise. I meant it exactly as it sounded. Not a no, not a yes, just a long pause. Let them sit with it. Let them stew in it. For the first time, they desperately wanted something from me, and I was going to let them. Feel what it's like to hope for something from someone else, only to not receive it. The next morning, I woke up to a voicemail from my mom. Her voice was soft and careful, as if she were talking to a person on the verge of a breakdown. She said she'd been thinking all night that maybe things had been handled too rigidly at the wedding, and that they could have communicated better. She didn't say the words I was waiting for, "we messed up," or "I'm sorry." It was just an attempt to frame the whole thing as a misunderstanding. Then came the real reason for the call. They were delaying the honeymoon. She said it as if it were a weather delay. But what she didn't say was that without my check, they were completely screwed. Later that afternoon, my dad called. He always takes a different approach, less emotional, more calculated. He said he was proud of the woman I'd become, successful, stable, dependable. He added that not everyone in the family could say the same, and that I should be proud of myself for having something to offer. Then he got to the point. "We trust your judgment," he said. "I know you'll make the right call." It's compliments and polished concern were just a subtle reminder that I was the reliable one. It's the mature one, the one they needed. That's when I remembered the car. 6 months earlier, I had loaned him my second car when theirs broke down. It was supposed to be for a week or two, but I never got it back. My dad always had a new excuse. Waiting for a part, waiting for a mechanic, and so on. I had stopped. Asking, it became just another thing I'd done for the family. But the car was still in my name and still on my insurance. I opened my account and checked. Yep, still registered to me. I immediately scheduled a tow for Friday morning. No warning, no heads up. I just gave the company the address and waited for the confirmation. Friday at 9:12 a.m., my phone rang. My mom. I didn't answer. She called. Again and a third time. Finally, I picked up. "There's someone outside," she said. "They're towing the car. Did you do this?" I said yes. There was a long silence. "Why?" she asked. I told her I was changing insurance companies, which wasn't. A lie. She said they needed the car, that they had plans, and this was inconvenient. I could hear my dad yelling at someone in the background. "Then maybe you should borrow one, or rent one, or figure something out," I said. "That's what I'd have to do, right?" she said. "This is about the wedding, isn't it?" I replied, "No, this is about patterns," and hung up. That evening, I got the first direct message from my brother since the wedding. "Can we talk?" Just us. I stared at it for a while. He knew why I wasn't responding. He had stood there and let it happen. He had been a part of it. I waited 6 hours before I answered, "Soon. Not today, not tonight." He could wait. Let them all wait. Let them live with the same silence they once gave me. Let them stay up wondering what I'll decide and when I'll decide it. For once, I was the one with the power. I didn't respond to my brother again that week. I wanted to see how long it would take before he cracked. He didn't call, but he sent one more message the next day. "Please just talk to me. I didn't want it to go this way." Ha! I left it on read. Meanwhile, the silence from my parents was even louder. No follow-ups, no apologies, no explanations, which told me two things. They were panicking, and they were trying to figure out how to save face if I decided to burn the whole bridge. I started to think they still didn't believe I would go through. With it, that they still saw me as the same girl who showed up to every family gathering, paid for dinner, and stayed quiet when they took advantage of her because that's just how family is. But I was done being predictable. 3 days after the car was towed, I dropped by unannounced. I parked across the street and walked in the front door. My dad was in the living room watching the news. He flinched when he saw me. My mom walked out of the kitchen as if she'd been rehearsing. "I didn't know you were coming," she said. "I know," I replied. I sat down at the table. They didn't offer me coffee, which was a first. My dad muted the TV and leaned forward, ready to make a pitch. Said they'd talked to Ryan, and he was really upset about everything, that he never intended for me to feel excluded. My mom added that they were looking at smaller, more local honeymoon options. I asked if they had booked anything. They said no, they were still figuring it out. I nodded. Then I said I might be able to help, but I'm thinking of it as a loan. Nothing. Too formal, but with terms. The room froze. What kind of terms? My dad asked. "Monthly repayments with interest," I said. "It's a lot of money. I think it's fair." We both looked at me as if I were speaking another language. My mom said, "But it was a gift, wasn't it?" "It was going to be," I said. "Then you downgraded me to a limited access guest and cut me out of your wedding like I was some distant cousin you barely knew." My dad got quiet. My mom looked like she might start crying. I added, "And I'd like the family group chat shut down. I'm not reading another message from Anton about pool party plans unless I'm treated like part of this family." She started to say something, but I stood up. "Or," I said, "you can borrow the money elsewhere. Figure it out. If Ryan really needs it, maybe he can get a second job. Or you two can sell something." I walked out before they could say anything else. I didn't make it halfway down the driveway before Ryan pulled in. He jumped out of his car as if he'd been rushing home. "Wait, Mel, wait." I stopped. He looked tired, genuinely worn out. And, in a strange way, it threw me. I hadn't seen him like that before. "I know they screwed up," he said. "I know I did too. But you've made your point. Okay, just don't keep doing this." I didn't say anything. I asked Dad for help. I didn't know they were going to treat you like that. Swear I found out afterward. I asked him if he had anything to say at the reception when he saw me standing off to the side when I walked out with the envelope. He didn't answer. I meant the gift, I said. Every dollar of it. He nodded. Then I got in my car and drove off. That night, I saw something I didn't expect. A message from Ryan's fiancée. Hey, I don't know everything that happened, but I just want you to know I'm really sorry. I saw what they did and you didn't deserve it. That stopped me. Read it twice. Then I smiled. At least one person in that house had a working moral compass. After that message, I did something I hadn't done all week. I responded, "Thanks for saying that. I appreciate it. I really do." She replied almost instantly. "I just wish you'd stayed." She said, "I think everything would have played out differently if you'd been there longer." I didn't agree, but I didn't argue. I wasn't going to unload my bitterness on the one person in that mess who seemed to have a conscience. Ryan didn't message me again after I left the house, and neither did my parents. They were waiting, hoping. I could feel it. They thought I was still weighing my options, maybe getting nostalgic. Instead, I was sharpening the knife. That weekend, I texted my mom out of the blue. "Are you still delaying the honeymoon?" She replied in 2 minutes. "Yes, haven't booked anything. We're just seeing how things play out." I followed up. "So, you're still waiting to see if I'll help?" There was another pause. Then, "We're hoping, yes, but it's your decision. We're not pressuring you, right?" It's just the usual guilt-driven optimism. I let a full day pass.
Okay.
Then I sent another message. "I talked to a financial advisor. If I do anything, it'll have to be a formal contract with signatures, interest, and a clause that you can't talk to me about the money again unless it's in writing." No response for hours. Then my dad texted directly, "Are you being serious right now?" I didn't reply. Later that night, my mom texted again. "Maybe we should all meet and discuss this calmly." I sent a thumbs up emoji. That was it when we met. The next day, they tried to keep things friendly. My mom made coffee. My dad had a printed list of alternate ideas. Ryan wasn't there. I asked why. My mom said he didn't want to be part of this anymore. He was stressed enough. I smiled and said, "That's fair. I'm stressed too. So let's just wrap this up." My dad handed me the printed page as if it were a peace treaty. I scanned it, folded it in half, and slid it back across the table. "I've made my decision," I said. "You'll need to figure it out without me. Borrow the money, earn it. Do what you need to do. Just don't ask me again." My mom's mouth opened, but nothing came out. My dad just sat back as if he'd been punched. That moment, when hope completely drained from their faces, I'll never forget. The next morning, I woke up to 0 messages. They went silent. I wasn't surprised. A week later, Ryan's fiancée texted me again. They told me, "You shut everything down. I just want you to know I still think you were right." I stared at the message, then replied, "You're the only one who gets it." She said, "Maybe I'm just not used to this kind of family yet." That made me laugh. At least someone finally said it out loud that the silence wasn't peace, it was punishment. 2 weeks went by. No texts, no calls. Nothing from my parents or Ryan. It was clear they thought I had gone too far because I had stopped being the one who swallowed her pride. Stopped being the family doormat. 'Cause I said no, and they couldn't handle that. The family group chat went completely dead. My dad ignored a simple, work-related email I sent. My birthday was coming up, and I knew what would happen. Nothing. They weren't angry that I had walked away. They were angry that I had done it with dignity. They thought I'd be stewing in regret. That I'd eventually come back apologizing, but I wasn't. I missed the idea of the family I thought I had, not the one that actually existed. Then a message from Ryan's fiancée popped up. "Hey, just checking in. I know it's been quiet. I just hope you're doing okay." I told her I was and that I appreciated her checking in. She responded, "It's been tense. They don't talk about it, but I know they're still hoping you'll come around. I typed a reply, deleted it, then typed again. They'll need to get used to the idea that I won't. She didn't try to change my mind. She just said, I really hope you're still around for the next chapter because you matter, even if they don't. Act like it. I sat there holding my phone, not knowing how to answer that. It was the only honest kindness anyone from that side of the family had shown me since the wedding. A few days later, I got a bank notification. Small transfer from my dad's account, $40, no note, no context. That was his attempt to reconnect. I declined it. That same day, I canceled the birthday dinner reservation I had made weeks ago, the one I'd held on to just in case they came to their senses. Instead, I ordered takeout and ate alone on my porch. Peaceful, simple, no paper badges. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like something was missing. They thought they had frozen me out, but I had already left. It had been a little over a month, and the silence had settled in like a permanent mold. I stopped expecting texts, stopped checking the group chat. Ryan had disappeared completely. I figured he was done with me, or more likely, he'd chosen not. To deal with the mess, I had mostly moved on, was back at work, eating better, sleeping okay. I even started looking into a trip I'd been putting off for years somewhere far away. Somewhere they couldn't reach. Then, one random Thursday night, everything cracked open again. I was half asleep on the couch when a notification popped up. From an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but the first line made me sit up. Hey, I hope this isn't too weird, but I really need to tell you something. It's about the wedding and your brother. I feel like you deserve to know. The number had no name, just a local area code. I kept reading. This is Kara's cousin. I helped organize the wedding. I saw the original guest list. You were listed as family, full access, seated at the same table as your parents and Ryan. Another message followed seconds later. 3 days before the wedding, your mom changed it. She emailed a revised list. You were the only name that was moved. Ryan approved it. I remember thinking it felt weird, but I figured it was a family thing. I didn't move. I just sat there staring at my phone, my heart pounding in a slow, heavy way. I wasn't shocked, but I felt exposed, as if someone had finally turned on the lights in a dark room. One more message came. I'm not trying to stir drama. I just couldn't sit on it anymore. What they did wasn't okay. I'm really sorry. I stared at the screen. They knew Ryan, my own brother, had seen me on that original list and let them bump me down to the limited access category. This wasn't a mistake or a vendor issue. It was a deliberate, precise, and pre-approved decision. They did it knowing exactly what I was bringing to the table. I had told Ryan weeks earlier that I had a big surprise planned for the wedding. He knew how tight their budget was. I offered to help and he let me. Then, 3 days before the wedding, he signed off on cutting me out. I scrolled back through our old messages. Back to the night he called and said, Mel, I don't know how we're going to afford the honeymoon. Back to me saying, I've got you. Don't worry. He knew, and he did it anyway. They wanted the money, but not my presence. They didn't want me. In the pictures, in the speeches, or at the table. They just wanted the envelope, and that's when it stopped hurting. That's when everything shifted, because now I knew exactly who they were, and I had proof. No more wondering, no more second chances. I didn't respond to the cousin. I didn't need to. She had already given me the one thing my family never did, the truth. The next morning, I woke up calm. No emotional spiral, no urge to scream or cry. Just a quiet, steady acceptance. They chose this. My mom chose to exclude me. My dad chose to support her. And Ryan, he chose to let it happen. So I started cleaning house. I left the family group chat without a word. I blocked my parents on every social platform. I muted Ryan's number, not blocked, just silenced. I wasn't punishing them, was removing myself from the space where they had built a version of me. That only existed for their benefit. Later that day, Ryan's fiancée texted me again. "I don't know what happened," she said, "but Ryan's been quiet all morning. I think he's realizing things." I didn't reply. Let him sit in it. Let him piece it together on his own because I wasn't going to carry that weight anymore. 2 days later, my dad tried again, sending a message that read, "Family is complicated. We all make mistakes. We love you." No apology, just a vague lifeline. Wrapped in excuses, I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the file on my computer labeled loan terms and deleted it. They weren't getting the money. They weren't getting anything. For the next week, the silence continued. Then, on a random Tuesday evening, Ryan's name popped up on my phone again. This time, he called. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. "Mel, I really need to talk to you. Please just give me 5 minutes. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm asking anyway." I didn't delete the message, but I didn't return the call either. I listened to it once, then set my phone down and took a walk. No music, no distractions, just the sound of my own footsteps and the quiet breeze. It was the most peaceful I had felt in months. The next day, another message came in, this time from my mom. "Ryan's not doing well. He misses you." It was short, direct, and completely tone deaf. I left it on read. That evening, I started looking at plane tickets. Somewhere far, somewhere quiet, somewhere that didn't carry the weight of family obligation. I was done with twisting myself into someone they might accept. Someone who keeps giving, hoping for crumbs of affection in return. The day before my birthday, a letter arrived, handwritten from my mom. The handwriting was too careful, as if every word had been rewritten in her head a dozen times. She said she missed me. That family wasn't the same without me, that mistakes were made and things got out of hand. But still, no apology, no ownership. I folded the letter, tucked it back in the envelope, and put it in the bottom drawer of my desk. That night, I lit a candle on a slice of cake I bought for myself and whispered one word before blowing it out. Freedom. Didn't need them to be different anymore. I just needed space to stop pretending they ever would be. The next morning, my actual birthday, I woke up to no calls, no texts, no fake cheer. It was exactly what I needed. I made pancakes. I played music. I danced barefoot in my kitchen. I realized they didn't lose a daughter, okay? They lost access to my generosity, my support, my loyalty, okay? And I still had all those things. I just wasn't giving them to people who treated me like an afterthought. 2 days after my birthday, I got another message from Ryan's fiancée. "Hey, just checking in again. I hope you had a good birthday. I'm still really sorry," I replied. "Thank you. That means a lot." She responded, "They still haven't talked about it directly, but I can tell it's eating at Ryan. I just don't think he knows what to do." I believed her, but I also knew he could have said something at any point, and he hadn't. Instead, he had waited, watched, and hoped I would be the one to crack first. Not this time. That weekend, I finally booked a trip, 3 days in a coastal town I'd never been to. I packed light, just a carry-on, a journal, and the kind of clothes you wear when you're walking towards something better. I didn't tell anyone. I turned off my phone when I arrived. No social media, no emails, just the sound of the ocean, the smell of salt. And the quiet that comes from finally and truly being alone. But not lonely. On the last night of the trip, I walked along the beach, barefoot, and let the tide chase me. I laughed out loud, and no one was there to judge or quiet it. I felt light. I felt like myself again. When I got home, the silence was still there. The group chat was still dead. But this time, it felt like a choice I had made. Not a punishment. I had to endure. That same afternoon, I found another envelope in my mailbox. This one was from Ryan. It wasn't handwritten, just a folded note and a printed photo. The note said, "I messed up. I know I did. I didn't stop it when I should have. I was scared of making things worse, and instead, I let them get worse. I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed you to know. I'm sorry. The photo was from our childhood, a summer barbecue. We were maybe 8 and 10. I had ice cream on my face. He was laughing, reaching out to clean it off. We both looked happy, whole, before all the complications, before they learned how to make me feel small. I stared at the photo for a long time. Then I put it back in the envelope and slid it into the drawer with my mom's letter. I didn't rip it up. I didn't throw it away. But I didn't call him either, because healing doesn't always mean reopening the door. Sometimes it just means locking it gently and walking away without slamming it. That night, I got one more text from Ryan's fiancée. I hope someday this changes, but if it doesn't, I still think you did the right thing. I've learned more from watching you walk away than I ever did from watching them pretend. I replied, thank you. That means everything. And it did. Because sometimes the people who understand you best aren't the ones you grew up with. They're the people who show up, quiet and steady, without needing to be asked. People just like her. It's the ones who look you in the eye, say, I see you, and truly mean it. A few days later, I opened my planner and started filling it in again. A yoga class, dinner with friends, a gallery opening, a hike. Not a single family event on the list. And it felt right. They had spent years conditioning me to disappear, to settle for crumbs, to put on a performance just to earn a little shallow praise. But I was done with that. I was no longer waiting for a phone call, an invitation, or the apology I knew would never arrive in the way I deserved it. Instead, was building something different, something better, a life that didn't revolve around anyone else's comfort or demands. I was sitting at my kitchen table one morning, scrolling through old photos with a cup of coffee. Holidays, birthday parties, forced smiles, and awkward group pictures. I deleted most of them, but I saved a few. Not because I missed those moments, but because I needed to remember the journey I'd been on. The girl in those photos was trying so hard, so desperately hard, to be enough, to be chosen, to be loved. And now she was finally free. It had been just over 2 months since the wedding. 2 months since I stood by that gift table and decided I wouldn't let them take anything from me ever again. 2 months since I stopped twisting myself into their shape and began to embrace my own. And still there was nothing from my parents. They were incredibly stubborn. I'll give them that. They were the kind of people who saw silence as a power move, believing that if they just waited long enough, I'd come crawling back out of guilt or loneliness or a sense of history. But I wasn't lonely. Not really. The silence they left behind was now filled with peace, with genuine friends, with people who truly saw me. The laughter wasn't forced or measured in obligation. It was just joy. And in the middle of that quiet night, I got another message. It was brief. From Ryan, hey, I don't expect a response, but I just wanted to say I miss you. I stared at the words for a long time, then put my phone down. I didn't need to reply. Not yet. Maybe never. I didn't owe anyone the version of myself that would let them hurt me just to keep things calm. They had created a system that worked. As long as I played my part, smiling, showing up, paying the bill, and sitting on the edge of the table, pretending I wasn't hungry. But the instant I asked for a plate, the moment I said, no, I matter too, the whole system fell apart. And it wasn't my job to fix their collapse. So instead of texting back, I opened my journal and finally wrote down the thought I'd been avoiding for weeks. You don't get to cut someone out and still expect their love. This was the lesson, not just for them, but for me. For so long, I had treated my love as a given, something people were entitled to just because we shared a family name, a childhood, or blood. But real love is a verb. It's reciprocal. It's earned, protected, and nurtured. I was done giving it to people who treated it like a background convenience. The next morning, I opened a new document on my laptop. At the top, I typed a title, What I Will and Won't Accept from Family. It was honest, personal, and detailed. It began, I will not accept shame disguised as care, and I will not accept exclusion presented as tradition. It ended with, I will guard my peace like a treasure because it is. And anyone who wants to be in my life has to treat it that way, not as a tool. When I finished, I printed it, folded it, and taped it inside my closet door. Not to remind them, but to remind me. They may never change, but I already have. And the best part is, I don't need a piece of paper to prove it. I have a seat now at a table I built where I serve myself joy in portions big enough to finally feel complete. And when I raise my glass, it's not for the family who let me down. It's for the girl who finally said enough and truly meant it. To Melissa, to me, to freedom.